button.
Voice.
We should be streaming. Now I'm going to check the audio when it pops up.
Voice.
We should be streaming. Now I'm going to check the audio when it pops up.
Voice.
Okay, we should be good. And we're live.
From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American Reach.
You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered.
We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it? Whether we're young or old.
Here comes the candle to light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop off your head.
And welcome to the American Read Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
And this is Conlon.
Tonight we've got a big, exciting show. Everyone buckle up. Headphones on and wear a crash helmet.
Did you say buckle up or fuckle up?
Buckle up.
Okay.
I don't know what fuckle would be. But to guess. Buckle up, America. Get out there and vote. Really fuck things up.
Oh man, I heard like the craziest lady the other day.
Does it work?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad people come out in public and
She was looking for bagels at like 9 p.m. at night.
yep.
Uh,
Bagel Jones.
And most of our bagels are from our vendors, and they only come in during like the morning, and that's it. And what we have is what we have.
Yeah.
And so we were out of bagels, and then she was mad that like. It's like, yeah, it's like, yeah, they come and fill it every day. It was like, we're just, we sold out of them, and she was mad that like too many people lived in Iowa, and we're going to build a wall. And then she says like, yeah, I'm going to vote this year because I didn't last year. And I'm like, wait, who the fuck are you voting for that you feel the need that now you need a vote, but you also want a wall? You don't understand economics.
Just around Iowa.
So yeah, out in there, just a stupid person out in the wild.
Oh yeah. They're everywhere. Gotta love midnight or 9 p.m. bagel raid. So, yeah, this wall around Iowa, what would it do besides really screw up the wind patterns? Horribly expensive.
It seems like she wants to depopulate the area, so I imagine she has some Nazi ideas in mind about rounding up certain people.
Oh. Populate in order, huh?
And then we'll have to find out how to, get everything. Basically, just Iowa will become North Korea.
Yeah.
I think that's her grand plan.
As long as she could have a bagel at any time. The state flag, just a yellow background with a bagel with a corn stuff. People's bagel. Reminds me of the Emo Phillips joke about the people in Germany that were complaining how they were in New York and they're like, you have wonderful bagels here. We can't get bagels in Germany. And he was like, well, whose fault is that? Oh, Emo Phillips. You couldn't do that joke nowadays.
We just did.
Yeah.
I didn't think about why like pizza and bagels are really good in New York is because of the water.
Is that it? I know they got some of the best water in the country because
Yeah.
the cisterns they get it from in upstate New York. I didn't realize like 40 people a year die at Niagara Falls.
From what?
Well, I mean, it's a combination of suicide and stupidity.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean,
These aren't accidents.
No, no.
Well,
Yeah. Well, it depends. Yeah, no, somebody's going there with a mission, but yeah, I didn't realize the numbers were that high. So that's a lot of people. You add it up for one area. But yeah,
I mean, I don't, how many people jump off the Golden Gate Bridge?
I don't know. Did they have the fences up yet, or can they do that there?
I don't know.
I know that some places they're putting the suit. Did you ever hear the story about the? I think you told me about the guy in China, whose job it was to keep people from jumping off this big bridge.
I can't remember.
Was the point? I think he was like a monk or something, and it was a pointed task. He could tell because he had so much experience with it. He could see how people just the look in their eyes and how they moved that they were going to jump, and he would go and stop them. And I don't think he didn't put his hands on them. He just talked them down. It's like, do you really want to do this? Because China, they have space for stuff like that. Everyone needs a job. I don't know how much money you get paid, but
You get paid in karma.
yeah, just rice and karma.
And shit. Oh, what the fuck is that? Can't remember what it is. It's like always on that choosing beggar thing where it's like somebody wants a painting but they don't want to pay for it. But it's like they're basically like, oh, you know, like I'll send my followers your way or whatever.
Oh, okay.
I'll pay you an influence or something. I can't remember what it's called, but yeah, shit like that.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of nonsense. I mean, it equals money somehow. It's through some deranged mechanism, money appears. But, yeah. That's the secret to New York, huh? It's the water for making the dough.
Yeah. As far as I know, I don't know exactly what it is because I don't know if it's like, hey, if you just get distilled water, it works better. But no, it's like some combination of stuff there.
Yeah.
You know, it's probably well purified and an exact combination of fluoride or whatever.
Just really old buildings and lots of that. Have you ever seen those like Nat Geo documentaries on just like how New York City gets its water alone?
No.
The pipes that have been there for like since the Civil War. Oh, if these ever lose pressure, they'll just fall. The only thing holding these pipes up is pressure. Like, how do you replace those? It's like, I don't know if you can. Like even the guys down there, well, we'd have to drill down through a subway tunnel, and I don't think that's going to happen. And
I remember I saw one thing was crazy where they're like building another subway tunnel and like it's basically like they're bobbing and weaving over and under other subway tunnels that are now derelict or whatever. It's or the idea of an abandoned subway tunnel just seems like really crazy to me.
it happens. They have pictures of one from like the it's a very old one, but it was one of those ones where they used to put mosaic tiles back before they were just purely industrial constructions when they were actually supposed to represent something and be artful. Yeah, they had one that just they built a spar and it never took off. They just sealed the tunnel and it was perfectly preserved for like 80 years. Guys dug it up and they were like, found this under tunnel. It's like, oh wow, this is crazy. This is a perfectly preserved, like 1890s, subway tunnel from, New York.
I imagine in Europe it's even more crazy because all that shit's way older.
Actually, New York is the largest public transit system in the world and one of the oldest. They had that before anyone else, and they're bigger.
Oh, I figured like London had a bunch of subway tunnels like before everyone else or something.
I mean, they might have, but I know we embraced it in quantity in the U.S. first, and then everyone else kind of, when the car came along, we sort of like, yeah, we'll do this too, and we'll build super highways, and because I think we have the most complex public transit system in the world if you throw everything together.
Yeah.
France is better, but France is roughly the size of Texas.
Yeah.
America is, not all our cities can be connected. I mean, they could be, but
yeah. There's podcasts where you hear people like from Europe, and they'll talk about like, it's like, oh man, I'm going to France this week, and it's a 2-hour drive. And you're like, what the fuck? How's that a problem?
yeah. 2 hours?
That's nothing. You have not driven across America to get somewhere cool, have you?
Yeah.
That's 4-hour drive one way. In one day, you're doing 8 hours of driving just to go see like a concert or some shit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what is it? England, if you drive it north south, it's like 7 hours, and if you drive across it, it's like 2.5.
Yeah.
Like it's like, oh, that's a small place. Like that's my trip to Cedar Rapids from Detroit.
Yeah.
It's like 6.5, 7 hours. It's like, oh, I could go from London to like Scotland at the same time, which would be, this was weird. But there's also so much here that's just uninhabited too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all it's not like Russia where it's like, yeah, it's huge there too, but only the European part of it really matters. Like everything else is just oil, and until you get over to the other side, and then it's depressing shipyards and Japan.
It's nature taking back the fight.
Taking back the land. So, yeah, I can't think of any country. Well, I mean, I can't think of any country as big as this either. Like South America's huge, but it's a bunch of little countries.
I mean, Australia's huge, but only people live on the coast there.
Crazy people live in this area. But yeah, because I remember the Australian truck driving show with road trains. You got to get food to the Aborigines. It's like, what? Yeah, we supply this village, and we have to go every 2 weeks, so they have toilet paper and laundry detergent and food. It's like, oh, this is a strange, and it's all a government contract too. You know, because it's just given away, I guess. I didn't quite understand it all, but it was weird. People driving, like one guy sleeps and one guy drives, and the guy's in the back with like, it's like he's in a hotel room.
Yeah.
Movies, air conditioning, a shower. It's like, oh, this is nuts. But outside, it's like 115 degrees. It's traveling across Mercury to get to a village.
Speaking of Europe, F1's back.
Good. Roaring back.
Yeah, it's interesting now. I mean, Mercedes is probably still going to win, but now Ferrari is kind of putting up a better fight now.
Oh, okay. What'd they change?
Maybe not a whole lot. Maybe it just the track is more advantageous to what their car can do.
Oh, okay.
Because they have the fastest car, but it's not necessarily the best at cornering.
Oh, okay.
So on tracks with like long straights and like fast turns, like they're gonna win probably.
Oh, okay.
So like the first track back is the Spa. That's the Belgian Grand Prix.
Oh, okay.
And immediately, and then the Red Bulls have been looking like good. They're coming off. He won the last race, and then first corner, gets his front tire underneath the back tire of another guy, and he just like kind of drives over his tire, and, like pops up in the air.
Huh.
And then that fucks up his front end, and then the guy comes back around and kind of like nicks his front wheel, and it just tears the front. Basically, the wheel just tore itself away from the car, and he was done in the first turn.
There's no coming back from that. Wheel
I'm trying to remember, but ultimately, Charles Leclerc won the race. He's like 22, 21 years old. This is his first win. It's like his third pole position, but this is his first win. Because last time he was gonna win some race. I think it was like Singapore or something, or no, can't remember. It's like Bahrain maybe. He was gonna win that race, but his car just like fucked off in like the last 3 laps, and like the Mercedes passed him, and he just came in third. But yeah, so he won this race. It's pretty good, but it was under a shroud of like well, not guilt, sadness. There we go. It was under a shroud of sadness, because the previous day. Oh yeah, this is actually the first race I actually got to watch some of it live.
Oh, okay.
I got to see qualifying live. And then and then the next day it was like, oh, it's going to be on at like 9:30, and I woke up and the race was already done. I'm like, what the fuck just happened? So I didn't actually get to watch the race, but I watched the highlights. But so one of the most famous turns on Spa is a turn called, well, it's two turns. It's called Eau Rouge, like EU and however you spell Rouge, and Redillion. It's the most photogenic track corner of all time.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now.
It like goes up a hill and like off to the right, curves off the right. Yeah. So that's a really cool corner. This is a cool track, but you can see it goes up a hill, so you can't see people at the top of the track. And so in F2, that's like that's their kind of next. It's like their minor league series. Like, you know, you graduate from F2 to F1 essentially.
Okay.
And now that this year it's all F1, F2, F3, but it had weird names. Like it used to be F1, F2000, and FGP3.
Okay.
And there's a guy, Antoine Hubert was the last F1 or FGP3 champion driver, and this year he's in Formula 2. And anyway, so it's the first lap of the track, and at the top of that hill, one guy goes spinning out, and then that kind of creates a cascading events behind him. So everyone's trying to get out of the way, but they don't know like this wreck's happening because it's at the top of a hill. And Antoine Hubert like gets out of the way to the right. He kind of spins out, hits a wall, and then it kind of like flings him back onto the track, and the guy just T-bones him, and so he probably died immediately right there.
Okay.
And yeah, unfortunately, you know, he died, but it was probably immediately because that was a lot of.
Yeah, that's pretty traumatic.
And if you look at the other guy, if you want to see some, well, it's got too fucked up, but it's pretty fucked up. I mean, the guy died there, but if you look at the other guy's car that hit him, so the front of the car gets ripped off, and if you look, you can see his feet hanging out the car.
Oh, okay.
And that guy is currently in a coma and in pretty serious condition. So
Yeah.
he's actually, his trouble is like he has some lung trouble right now, which is interesting, which I guess is common after like a high impact injury like that. But
It just shocks your organs and
yeah.
does brain damage and all that good stuff.
So yeah, that was an unfortunate thing. That was probably the second F whatever death in like the past 4 years.
Yeah.
And they had like a 20-year record of like no deaths.
Yeah. But then before that, they had
Massive amounts, yes.
yeah, just all kinds of death.
Yeah, if you're an F1 driver in like the 70s and 80s, you're going to a funeral 2 to 3 times a year.
Yeah, and that's really high considering how they don't really run. They're not running 5 races a week, folks.
Then after that, we have the Italian Grand Prix, which again, it's long straights, fast turns, and again, Charles Leclerc won. So he got a Ferrari win in Italy, so everyone was really happy about that. And then this was, not under a shroud of sadness, so he actually got to enjoy his victory. Because he Charles Leclerc is a pretty young driver, so he was actually friends with Antoine Hubert, so.
Oh, okay.
They came up together. Yeah, they're off this week, and I believe the next race is in like Singapore or something. They're like doing their like Asian tour, so I think they're gonna be in like Singapore, Malaysia, and China, and I think Russia.
Oh, okay.
And then somewhere they're coming over here for like I believe the American or North American. Well, not North American, like the United States Grand Prix, Mexican Grand Prix, and the Brazilian Grand Prix.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know when that's happened. Yeah, F1 travels all over the place.
Must be a hell of a travel.
I mean,
Cars and German crew.
Yeah, just flying $20 million cars across country.
Yeah.
But you look at their equipment, like it's man, holy shit! Everything is so spotless and looks so fucking expensive. It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, how do they seemingly have no trouble to get all this money to pour into this fucking thing? Yeah, but oh well.
It's just a billionaires club.
Yeah. So that's the F1 update. So it's I still Mercedes. So Charles Leclerc won the race, but Mercedes still came in second and third in both races. So there's pretty much there's no chance of Ferrari. Charles Leclerc is not going to win the drivers' championship, and Ferrari's not going to win the constructors' championship, especially with Sebastian Vettel. They're supposed to be their primary driver. Keeps fucking up pretty bad in each race and not finishing in the top 10. Well, he finished fourth in the in Spa, but he like spun off the track and then like rejoined unsafely and like clipped a guy and made him spin around, and then that guy was mad, and then he gets out and then he almost clips another guy.
A little too aggressive there.
Well, they were talking about the way he was spun out. He was in the grass, and he basically was perpendicular to the road. And the way they have like the Hans device and stuff like that, like you can't turn your head like more than like 30, maybe 45 degrees to look left or right.
Yeah.
So like to him, from his perspective, like nobody was coming, but also these cars are going like 200 miles an hour. Well, that wasn't in a straight, so, they're only going, 100 or whatever.
Yeah, still get hit at 100 miles an hour.
But he got a penalty for that, and I think that kind of, sunk his race that weekend. The Renaults came in fourth and fifth in that race, so it was pretty strong from them. The McLarens have been kind of sucking it up this past couple of races, but... and the Haas's are completely terrible. So their season's pretty much over with.
Yeah.
Who else? Red Bulls Red Bulls switched one of the drivers. So you have Max Verstappen as their primary driver, and then they got rid of Pierre Gasly and promoted Alex Albon from their Toro Rosso, and then Gasly went back down to Toro Rosso. So, but Albon's has been doing pretty good considering, because this is about the time where some people they take engine penalties because all these cars have been using the same engine for the duration of the season, and anytime if you switch out a power plant, that's a penalty, and you basically have to start from the back of the race. So there's usually somewhere around the season, everybody will just take an engine penalty, and then it's there's not an engine penalty. But the Red Bulls took engine penalties these last two races, so they've been starting from the back. So Alex Albon, one of the races, he started in 19th and finished 6th, so that's pretty good for him.
Yeah.
All right, that's been the F1 catch-up.
F1 roundup. All right. I'm building a Tamiya tank kit from the 1980s that someone generously gave me for free. I built I think it's not dry. Built that helicopter, that Czechoslovakian model from the 70s.
Which helicopter is that?
Looked like the one in the Chernobyl series when they were.
Oh, okay.
They're like, if you fly over that reactor, you'll want to be shot in the head. That one happened to have. I bought that for $3. About that much. It's terrible. Terrible to build. A lot of dumb ideas. But I did it. And I'm going to try this 1980s Tamiya tank. That's
What tank is it?
it's a German Tiger.
Okay.
But it's built one of those. This is different. It's an older model. I'm working through my bank of free models right now. Not buying anything because I don't know if I'm going to have a job. Depending on what happens with the auto talks. I don't know what kind of job I'm going to have. It looks like there might be a strike at General Motors that might spread like cancer. I mean, you know, if they call for a strike, I'm assuming it's for the right reasons. But you know, with all the excitement that's been in the news lately about the union leadership, multiple indictments for stealing money, it's like this is all conveniently happening right in the middle of the contract. And believe me, with who's president and who's running the government right now, I don't think it's a coincidence. We'll see. Just hope all those guys at work that thought that Trump was their guy. It's like, yeah, you might find out. You're fucking standing in a goddamn bread line, but that's your guy.
No, they're going to be building the wall next year.
Yeah. Yeah, like a bunch of fat-ass guys like me are apt for construction work in southern Texas. Swing that hammer. Yeah, I'm not spending any money on anything. Trying to get my family to follow me in that. I'm like, what? It's going to be fine. No, it isn't. It's not going to be fine. Never be the same, I guarantee you. America will, like a phoenix, we will rise from the ashes. It's weird working with older plastic, though. It's very brittle.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, you got to be careful when you're cutting stuff out. I saw, when I work on older models, I saw things off the screws more than use even the really nice high precision cutters. Those old parts, like if it's got 3 points where it's connected, you chop the wrong one, it'll just break in half.
Is it the age or just poor plastics from the time?
I think it's a little combination of both. I don't know. It's all styrene plastic, and when you get a new model, like the styrene's pretty soft and malleable. But the older ones seem, I think it's just a chemical breakdown, like they're getting stiff.
Yeah.
I can't describe to you exactly why or how that is. There's people, there's YouTube channels you can watch where guys build models from the 50s and 60s. or some of my model magazines, the guys will like put the detail stuff from modern models onto really old ones. And it's like, this is how you can spruce this model up. It's like, yeah, or I can buy the new one. I won't have to buy 3 model kits and have $400 and something to be like, look how new you can make this old model look. It's like, yeah, or gotta buy the expensive new one and just do that. But some people like a challenge. Most of the old ones you find here, though, they're doing reissues now because all that tooling just sat in a warehouse somewhere. They didn't throw the dies away. So because a lot of these old American model companies just went bankrupt years ago. But people are buying the rights to resell them and even repackage them in the old packaging.
No, I don't know if this applies to models, but like I know it's like an old plastic thing, or at least before plastic, modern plastics. But like, what the hell is Bakelite?
Bakelite is I know exactly what you're talking about. It's kind of let me look it up because I know the Russians still use a lot of it.
Like like that Cuban AR-10.
Yeah.
Like the grips on it are Bakelite, and it's kind of it's on there. It's kind of a brown plastic. They used to use it in a lot of it was like before everything became like high polymer plastic. Like they used Bakelite for things like in the 70s and 60s.
Yeah, it's how did they describe? Basically, it's the first synthetic plastic.
Okay.
Plastic made out of completely synthetic materials instead of just oil and stuff like that. So yeah, but it has a weird look to it. And because it was an old process and nobody had any rights to it after so long, see a lot of it in the a lot of the Soviet military equipment. They substituted a lot of Bakelite for metal. Just to mold something, then to shape it out of metal and forge it or stamp it or whatever. So yeah, that's where we encounter a lot of bakelite. It was invented here, but in like 1903. But yeah, that's a really weird fibrous plastic. If that starts breaking apart, it's like fiberglass.
So I don't know if any models were made out of bakelite or anything like that.
Probably not because I mean, models are basically made out of styrofoam.
Okay.
That's what styrene is essentially, because it's easy to work with. It's lightweight. It's cheap. You can hold detail with it pretty well. And there's ready-made adhesives for it. Lots of different adhesives. You can use all kinds of different. Some people build models with just out of super glue. Oh my God. That's like truth or dare right there. I mean, I use super glue as a gap filler on models, but I never just assemble them.
Yeah.
And because I have semi-thick super glue, and now I have a hardening spray where I spray it on, it instantly sets, and then you can sand that down and paint it. It's like, oh. But you can also use model putty. You just have to wait longer for it to dry. Yeah, there's people that use MEK.
What's that?
Methyl ethyl ketone. It's pretty carcinogenic. They used to, yeah, you can use MEK to put a model together with a brush. I mean, it'll bond it like it's like those two pieces of plastic just become one. They fuse. It's like, yeah, I'm just gonna. Let's get into special chemicals.
I was watching the AK Guys channel.
Hey, I've never heard of them. The AK Guys channel.
I think his channel's like Brandon Herrera or something like that, but he's just the AK guy.
Yeah.
He's like out of like North Carolina. He imports parts kits for AKs and builds AKs.
Okay.
He's also trying to make an AK-50 BMG.
Sounds fun.
I think he's been working on it for like 5 years. It's like, I don't even think in the end that it's gonna work, but he just wants to try.
Yeah, because it only took it only took the Barrett manufacturing 20 years to get that right. Bunch of engineers and equipment. So.
Yeah, it's just a dude who's never been to college, and he's not even a gunsmith. He's like a gun builder.
An enthusiast.
Yeah. But he knows people who know better. He's
He's a gun popularizer.
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, he has millions of hits videos, although his YouTube channel like isn't as big as you think it is, considering how big some of his videos are. Because his biggest videos are AK guy versus AR guys.
Oh, okay.
Which is just comedy bits. Anyway, so he had some Russian guy there, and they were doing a training course, and he was like teaching like Russian special forces shit, like how to operate an AK like a Russian special forces guy.
Spetsnaz AK-47 class.
Yeah. That was kind of interesting. He didn't show the whole thing because basically, like, like that's how that guy makes money. So they only showed like the introductory courses, like not the, high advanced stuff. But the interesting is like whenever they're like racking the bolt, so they didn't do that. So sometimes you see that thing where like if somebody's right-handed, like they'll do that thing where like they reach over the top of it and like pull the lever to rack the bolt. You ever see that? Because the bolt what do you call that, lever is on the right hand side of an AK.
Yeah.
And so if you're holding it with the pistol grip, you have to like reach over the rifle to charge the hand or to charge the rifle.
Okay.
But here they're training it like they're just like holding at the magwell and then taking their hand off the pistol grip and just kind of keep it in your shoulder and then racking it with your right hand. At least if you're right-handed. So.
Yeah.
Because when in the military, the way you're trained is like everything stems from you holding on to the pistol grip at all times. So everything comes from there. So your left hand does everything, reloading, charging the handle, like all that stuff. You always like have it in your right hand with your pistol grip, at least if you're right-handed. But like because the charging handle is like essentially vaguely ambidextrous and towards the back, like it's easier to do it that way, where like the AK-47 it's more of a hassle. So that was somewhat interesting.
I have to watch that.
Which is that's kind of the reason I just want to shoot an AK. Like, I don't want an AK. I just want to shoot it a couple times just to see how it operates. Because an AR-15, like, all that stuff is, like, all the ergonomics to that stuff is so simple. It just makes sense.
Yeah.
So I want to shoot all the weird shit. Like, oh yeah, this is why this fucking sucks. But it's cool.
An AK-47 has a very weird. There is a lot of mechanical motion going on, and you know it. There is a lot of things moving around when you're firing one of those. It's fairly effective. It's simple. It's crude. I mean, it's really not. You can tell it's not refined, and it really couldn't be. But it's a lot of stamped metal, and I mean, my impressions of shooting it are, yeah, this is cool. This is not superior to an AR-15, but this is a cool.
Well, so it's a bigger round.
Yeah, it's a bigger round, and it's an old design.
That's why like people like are championing the 74 things, because it shoots a intermediate round that's much more pleasant, but it still has like the reliability of an AK-47.
Yeah, that's I don't see a lot of those.
I think it's hard to get those because you can't just import Russian rifles into America.
Yeah, and
you have to have a weird go around.
Because wasn't he an agent or something? Probably just surrounded with AK-47. Actually, the ones I fired though are the Vectors. Those are the South African ones.
Yeah,
those are a little different. I think those are a little more refined than a true Russian Kalashnikov AK-47, because I know their magazines don't banana; they kind of stick straight.
Yeah,
they do the same round. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's chunky. When you're pulling the trigger, it's like, oh, there's stuff going on here. Feel it, like, because your hand is like the whole reciprocating.
Yeah, does the charging handle reciprocate when you fire?
Yeah.
Oh, good. That shit always weirds me out, because I can just see my, like, having something, like, I put my hand in a weird place and now I got a fucking broken bone because this thing's reciprocating back and forth.
It's a piece of, it's silver, because I think that's one of the few parts that's not stamped. That's actually forged. The receiver, the charging handle, all that. It's on the top. It just moves back and forth. Your hand wouldn't, because you wouldn't hold it where it would be near.
No.
Something scared you, and you're like, and it slapped you. But yeah, it will.
It comes some of the modern holding techniques where you have that like thumb over bore shit that like I could see doing some, but that's to the rear of the rifle. But no, I want like fire something like an HK G3 where like the charging handle's like at the front of the fucking rifle, and the rifle's like 3 feet long. That'd be interesting to operate, but not own.
Yeah, you can. It's always go shoot them once. And I've shot all kinds of weird guns like that, and the only gun I own that's like that is an AR-15, because it's like, well, this makes the most sense. Just for this kind of gun, this is the best you're gonna get. The other stuff's cool. I always like the FNFAL. Yeah. With the big carry handle, and it's like, this is so old school. It's almost like this looks like this looks like if you brought engineers from World War I and said, make a rifle for the modern battlefield. Okay, it's going to be really long, fire a big pipe hitting round, have a lot of wood, and I like the wood furniture. I just like the wood furniture. It's like, this is a weird gun. It's cool, but it looks like it was designed from the steampunk era. Yeah. Now they are modern versions of it, but
well, I mean, those things were designed in the 50s, with outdated ideas of what war was going to be.
Yeah, that's what makes them cool. Get shot with one though. They're big. Yeah, we never adopted that. Matter of fact, it wasn't us that killed that, because all of Europe wanted to go to that, and we're like, no.
Yeah, probably.
NATO standard, because I know something like Ireland kept them in their army for a long time, like until quite recently. So they committed to buying them. It's like, well, fuck it, those are ours.
And the Israelis had them forever.
Yeah. Yeah, they made a short version of it.
Well, that's gotta be fun on your shoulder. I'm not sure. Maybe I don't know.
Well, it depends on how you. And that gets into gun engineering and gunsmithing.
I guess the interesting thing about a FAL is that it has almost infinitesimal gas settings, so you can
Yeah.
actually get it to a point where you can shoot it comfortably, but you have to have really consistent ammo to do that, or else you're just fucked.
Yeah.
Oh, this thing isn't cycling properly. Just open it all the way up.
Well, the thing with the Israelis, they always tack to, because what's that new gun they came out with?
Oh,
The bullpup one now.
the something, Torov or whatever.
Yeah, Torov or something like that. Yeah, because see, they're like a country where their army is just everyone they can find, and and they're about 70 pounds and about 4 inches shorter than your average NATO soldier. Because they're just smaller people and it's a smaller country. They don't want those big, huge guns.
Oh, Tavor, that's it.
More, yeah. I see those in stores.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay. It looks like a space gun.
Yeah.
A lot
Oh
of
yeah,
plastic.
like all bullpups kind of look like space guns.
Yeah, well, this one especially like really embraces the plastic.
Well, yeah, I do like it's just got like there's not really a trigger guard. It's just like a whole hand guard.
Yep. And you can change that barrel out like lickety split. Like there's like 4 different versions of it.
Yeah.
Short range, very short range, which you can't have here because that's a short barreled rifle.
Yeah.
Or you can have it with a permit, and then there's like intermediate, and then there's a long range, but it's all like click, 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 click. You
Yeah.
just put it together and do it. It's like that solves a lot of problems. I mean, if it's good for all those things.
Well, yeah, they designed it to shoot a 308, and then just kind of they scaled down from there.
Yeah.
Because usually like bullpups aren't like shooting that bigger rounds, not really comfortable.
Deafen you. 'Cause your head. Yeah, because that was a big reason because we looked at the bullpup guns, and the big reason we rejected them is like, oh, it just deafens people. Because the French still have one.
Yeah.
The British, do they do that anymore? I know they did.
I have seen them still have it. Those LA ones or whatever they call them.
Or whatever.
Yeah. I think they still have it, but they might be transitioning. I don't know, I don't know, like people don't really have like giant armies anymore, so it's kind of like here's the guys that are something, and like the special forces just get a smorgasbord or whatever the fuck they want, so they never use the what.
Yeah, that's like us and the Russians and the Chinese. We're still building for scale. Everyone else is like, customize your own rifle. Here's a pink one, just whatever you want.
I was watching Vicar Tactical. I can't remember the guy's name. He was a special forces guy in like the late 90s, or not late 90s, late 80s. And he was talking about his rifle from when he was in special forces, and it was like one of the first M4s. Like it had like an experimental designation on it. Like that's how like new it was at the time or something. And it had some special scope on it too. That was like bizarrely huge.
Like night vision scope with
Yeah.
80s.
Yeah.
They'd replace the battery every 10 minutes.
But he had this specific way that you ever see like those duct tape mags? You duct tape 2 mags together. Well, he had a specific way he did it, where he put like a piece of cardboard between the mags, and then just like taped it the fuck up, and he had like the piece of cardboard kind of like made it V off the light, so it was like out of the way of operating, but you could change it over as easily enough. And also, I believe they called it download. Like they said like you'd never fill your mag because you can hold 30 rounds in a clip, but you just never actually fill it to 30 rounds because of a potential failure. But if you had it at 28, it's always good to go at 28.
Yeah, I've never, with my AR, I've never put 30 in a mag because it always jams. I don't shoot mine regularly enough.
Yeah, when we train, you always have a mag of like you always have a couple mags of 30s when you train. I've never really had a problem, but the only problem I had operating is like if it's like oh, well I shoot once a year, so this is my one time I'm back to shooting, time to forget and remember everything, and it would always be and it would be during the training sessions, so you have or your practice sessions, and I'd always like basically like kind of like short stroke the pull when you pull the receiver back, and then it would feed weird or it wouldn't feed,
Yeah.
and then like you get like a it wasn't really a double feed. It was just it didn't seat properly, so that was. But then once you're actually shooting, like I never had that problem. I never actually had to remediate a problem while qualifying. I've seen it happen. Our one guy's he was like shot enough and like fucking jam, and it's like tap rack bang. He did that, shot the rest of it. His score was good, and he's like, all right, we called it. All right, everything's good. You don't have to get an alibi. That's where you get to shoot again because there was a malfunction. Although if your gun just stops and you don't do anything to remediate it, you don't get an alibi because like you're supposed to remediate.
Oh, okay.
So if you don't do tap rack bang and attempt to get back on target, then you basically failed that course of action.
Oops. Yeah, I don't mind my AR. First 500 rounds, I thought I got screwed. Shit. Because it would literally fire 3 and it would stovepipe or it would just jam. It wouldn't eject right. And, guy was watching us. He's like, here, try the. He basically just like, here, try this. And he took oil and just poured it in the receiver and just went like that. Shoot it, you're gonna have to clean the shit out of it anyway. And it helped. It once I got 500 through it, it never did anything again. But I mainly shot like the 10 round magazines because it's just easier to reload.
Yeah.
Because I don't have the reloading
Speed loader.
I don't invest extra money in something I do once a year if I can afford it. So yeah, I just.
Yeah, I never got to shoot an M4. I would have liked to try that because everybody who ever shot an M4 always got terrible scores during qualification.
Wonder why.
I don't know if it's something about because it's a shorter barrel, if that's doing something, or if because if it's a smaller gun, people are like strong arming it.
Oh, okay.
Because it kind of seemed like the beefy guys that were given M4s like always like fucked it up.
Oh, just overpowering it a little bit, holding on a little too tight.
Yeah, well, it's like the thing about like long distance shooting is like you don't really move your arms, you move your body. If you're moving your arms to try to get the shot, you're going to fucking miss.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're moving it out of alignment with your.
Well, because like you take all the advantage of like say a kneeling position or a sitting position or a prone position, and you basically are sitting. You're in a prone position, which is the easiest shot to make, and now you're essentially you took away that advantage, and it's like you're just standing up and trying to free shoot in a standing position at like 500 yards. Like yeah, good fucking luck.
Not yet. Wait for the rocket bullets.
Anyways, that's enough gun talk.
There's never enough of that.
Trying to think of like what was the latest like forgotten weapons that was neat. Well, I guess they're all neat. Oh yes, they had the Austin, which was the Australian Sten gun,
Okay.
which it's kind of neat to look at, but apparently it was terrible.
That was a weird gun just in its UK version.
Yeah, they saw it and it was like, this is gonna save Australia. Like fuck you. So they redesigned it. Apparently they had captured some MP40s and they tried to take things from the MP40 and mix it with things from the Sten, and then it just became a weird amalgamation. It has 2 handles on it because really the Sten didn't really have a handle whatsoever. It just kind of had a triangle piece of steel that hung off a bar.
Yeah. Comfortable shooting. Good ergonomics.
It had a foldable buttstock, and on the tube on the buttstock there was like a you could unscrew the end of it because there was a cleaning rod in one of it, and then there was like a screwdriver in the other one. So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And then they had two versions of it. So the one was more like a stem, but they had, made major changes, and the second one was more cast. They made a bunch of cast parts with it. So
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting, but not that many were made, and apparently it was declared obsolete by 1994 or 1944, which is when they basically finished making them.
Yeah.
It's immediately obsolete. Because that was also the Owens the Owens SMG that was more popular and better suited.
Yeah.
And they also had fucking Tommy guns and shit like that.
And those are always fun. Nice lightweight gun.
I've been watching The Chef Show on Netflix.
Is that the French show?
No, it's so there's a movie called Chef with Jon Favreau.
Okay.
Did you ever see that?
No.
It's kind of annoying, but mostly good.
Okay.
It's mostly a good thing. There's some things that are slightly annoying about it, but so anyways, like one of the most like amazing things in that whole movie was like basically a behind the scenes thing where he makes a grilled cheese sandwich.
Okay.
And this cook who helps him out, I forget his name. He's a personality in himself. He made a food truck, and then got really successful. And then they made this movie that was vaguely based on him, but not really, other than start a food truck. And so that part was really good, and that wasn't even a part in the movie. It was just kind of a behind the scenes kind of thing. And so now he has a Netflix show, and it's him and Jon Favreau just cooking. Like there's no pretense of like the movie carrying forward. It's just a cooking show with Jon Favreau and this dude.
Okay.
And what's great is that like Jon Favreau is like a really successful director and Hollywood like producer. And here in this entire like series, he's like subservient to because he's still like learning how to cook all this shit. He's still learning. And he's like subservient to the guy, and he's always like looking to like get in. They go to these different restaurants, and he's like always looking to get in there and work. So it's like Jon Favreau just seems like a cool dude in this, because he's not pretentious and he's willing to learn and like all that shit.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I just found it really fascinating. And the second season just came out, and it has Seth Rogen on it, and they make one dish that like is horribly complicated, and like, well, I'm never gonna make that. They're not really good about like telling you like ingredients or like temperatures and all that stuff. They just kind of do it and expect you to figure it out.
Yeah.
But the second half of that episode, they do buttermilk fried chicken, which looks fucking awesome.
Oh, wow.
And then they showed some clip from a movie that's apparently, because this whole episode was about chicken, because I guess Seth Rogen was in some movie called Tastes Like Chicken, where he played a chef who just made nothing but chicken. I didn't even know it existed. So yeah, they made some horribly complex Korean dish, and then they made buttermilk fried chicken, which I'm going to attempt this Monday.
Okay.
So see how that goes.
Let me know how that goes.
Well, it looks like all you do is you just like you put the chicken in a bag, you pour buttermilk in it, and you let sit. In this episode, they had a vacuum sealer, and they basically vacuum sealed the chicken and the buttermilk in the bag, and so they had to forego like leaving it in the fridge overnight. Like that just made it quicker.
Okay.
But normally you just like leave it in the fridge overnight. And then they seemingly just then they breaded it. It just seemed like flour, salt, and pepper. Like that was the breading. That was like real simple. And they breaded it, and then they fried it in canola oil. But they didn't like necessarily like fry it until it was fully cooked. Like they fried it until it was like halfway cooked, and then they put it in the oven and baked it until it was cooked.
Oh, okay.
And then they go to bite into it, and you just hear that like crunch sound. It's like, that sounds delicious.
That does sound amazing.
So yeah, I'll probably attempt that on Monday.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. or at least.
Yeah, it's on Netflix. That particular one is season 2, episode 1. Seth Rogen's on it. They make chicken together.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I really like the first season. There was a great episode with Robert Rodriguez where they're just in his house and he just has this giant kitchen with a wood pizza oven in it,
Okay.
or a wood burning pizza oven, and he's just sitting there making pizza for the guys. And he was like talking about him. Benicio del Toro came over and like he like made like 8 pizzas for him because like he hand tosses all his pizzas. Like he showed you how to do it. Like you just kind of like have the pizza dough in your hand like fist like this, and you just kind of like punch upwards and spin.
Okay.
And it just kind of like moves outwards, and it's like that's fucking amazing. And then he made a cauliflower pizza crust one, and I learned how to make tortillas from Robert Rodriguez because on most of his DVDs he has a 10-minute cooking school.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that.
So that's how I learned how to make tortillas from Robert Rodriguez. What are the other? Yeah, I just think it's a cool show. There's an interesting part in the first episode where they're called beignets. It's basically just like flour and sugar, and you fry it.
Okay. I think I've heard those.
And apparently they're using like expired flour, and so as soon as the one guy eats it, and he just he's like, huh. He's like he's trying to figure out like whether he should pretend it tasted good or not, and he just like throws it in the trash, and he's like, well, we're not gonna fucking lie here, are we? That tasted like shit. And then they came back to it on a later episode. There's an episode with Bill Burr. I think that's one of the first episodes, and that's where they show him how to make that grilled cheese sandwich from Chef, which is like one of the most amazing grilled cheese. You watch that, and it's fucking porn. That grilled cheese sandwich.
Wasn't what's his name Bert Kreischer in one of those,
I don't know.
or was that another cooking thing?
There's a lot of cooking things out there. So.
Well, it was like Bert Kreischer was talking about like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches with butter, like then like toasting them, and he's like, "Oh, this will bring your grilled cheese sandwich or your peanut butter and jelly sandwich to the next level, but it'll drive your cholesterol up or something." And it's like, well, you guys just got to get on the fucking treadmill, do this shit. You don't just like go take a nap. This is why you guys are all. You know how Bill Burr always.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you don't take a nap after that. There was something, but it sounds similar.
I've been watching a bunch of cooking shows, and now I'm just more liberally using salt on everything.
Yeah.
Because I used to like not really put salt on stuff, or I thought I'd fuck it up and add too much salt, so I just never really salted things.
Yeah.
But now when I'm cooking things, I just cover things with kosher salt and throw some pepper on it and then cook it. It's like, it tastes better.
Yeah.
Because you just see these guys how liberally they just throw salt on it. It's like they start out like covering it with salt, then they cook it, and then at the end they're adding salt. It's like, Jesus Christ.
This is salt ham.
Well, yeah, there was a part like when they're somewhere and it's like two cooks talking to each other, and it's like, yeah, if it doesn't work, just keep adding salt and butter. Eventually, it'll be something good.
Eventually, people will love it. Won't know why. I've never been a big fan of salt. What I'm a real junkie for is pepper.
Yeah.
Because I've got like pepper, like all kinds of different. I've got like the regular grinder. I mean, I don't use pepper from a dispenser anymore, but I've got all grinder peppers and stuff, and it's like peppercorn medley and this kind of pepper and that kind of pepper and spicy pepper and sweet pepper. And,
yeah, I've been putting more pepper on things, but like I don't really care about like freshly ground pepper that much.
Try it for a while, you will. Just get a grinder.
I do, but like I probably got to get a good one because there's like they sell a bunch of those ones now where you just get it from the store and it's already in the grinder, but they're always like fucked.
Oh well, yeah, get a big one.
Do you just get the store ones, or do you have like a special one that you use?
Both.
Okay.
For my regular just black pepper, we got a real nice wooden one that you can club someone to death. And it's real like ergonomic because the head of it's really big, and you can just spin that thing. Even it's set on the coarsest chop, it'll just dispense this pepper like crazy. But I buy like at Costco or Sam's Club or whatever, you can get like the giant pre-pepper with the grinder. If it's got metal inside it, it's good.
Okay.
Yeah, well, it's the ones that are all plastic. I know what you're talking about. They jam on you.
Or they like just throw out like a whole peppercorn and then barely.
Yeah, you'll be like, is there a rock in this? What did I put? Yeah, and then you can get what do I get? That chunk kosher salt. I use that when I make roast
Yeah.
because I sear the roast, and I'll put all that on. But yeah, but then I don't need to put salt on the roast after it's cooked. It's like, oh, this is very well salted.
Yeah, because I want to because I'd like to I've been putting more pepper on things. Like now, like when I have like a frozen pizza or whatever, I'll throw some pepper on it. Just whatever. But like I don't necessarily like I need to get into freshly ground pepper. I just like don't necessarily care for it as much because I don't have a good pepper grinder. Because like I feel like the only additive thing to it is like the aromatics of the pepper and not necessarily the taste of it.
Yes, exactly. That's all it is, really. I mean, there's a pepper taste. I like when I make I haven't had biscuits and gravy in a while, but when I do it, I like a very peppery gravy because I like the smell and I don't like a lot of salt on it. I like a lot of pepper.
Yeah.
Because it has the smell and then the texture of the gravy and with the pepper, it's really good. But yeah, you got to get you a pepper grinder at the wholesale clubs, just the big one, the big bottle, like $7 and.
I got a mortar and pestle. I can go old school with it.
You can cook like the Romans, wear a toga and grind shit up like that. But the smaller you make pepper, the more it'll baste your tongue a lot more.
Yeah.
I mean, there's stuff I can do with like a freschetta cheese pizza, where I can cut up like onions and red peppers and put like that peppercorn medley on it. I'll make it taste like something you'd spend $30 for at the California Pizza Kitchen. It's like, is this a freschetta? It's like, well, yeah, but I put a bunch of shit on top of it. You know, I don't want the roadkill pepperonis and stuff. Babe, I'm not interested in that.
I think I called it like an $8 pizza or something like that. We're getting to my food crimes.
Yeah.
I'll have a food crime after this. I have my worst food crime. Because I take like a Jack's Pizza, which is like $2.50.
Yeah, I know.
And then you get like a bag of pepperonis. And then you just add more pepperonis to the Jack Pizza.
Oh, so it's a Jack's pepperoni pizza with a little bit of cheese.
Yeah, it's just covered in pepperoni.
Use the broiler setting at the end to make the pepperoni on top crisp.
No, but that would be great. But also the thing you have to do, or the thing you have to worry about, is because you have so much fat on there that it just drips to the bottom of the.
Yeah.
Oh, but it is fucking delicious.
Oh, yeah.
No, my worst food crime is that. So I love nachos and cheese.
Yeah.
And I will go very low with like low quality with my nachos and cheese because occasionally I think I just call them dirt nachos.
Yeah.
So sometimes we just have like a bag of tortilla chips, but not necessarily like we don't have the fancy dipping cheddar or a salsa around. But what we do have is like shredded cheddar or like, so you can use shredded cheddar or you could take Kraft singles and just like slice them up in little bits or just peel them apart. Like who gives a shit?
That's called like food stamp nachos or something. There's a name for that. Yeah, go ahead.
So you take you line the bottom of the plate with with your cheese. You put a layer of nachos on top. Then you cover that with cheese. Put another layer of nachos and then another layer of cheese, and then you put it in the microwave for 33 seconds, and then you're done. It's not good, but it's not even acceptable nachos, but it's fucking quick, and it's nachos and cheese technically.
Yeah. Oh, what were the guys doing? My favorite was like, yeah, we're gonna make some like dip and cheese with nachos, just plain old fashioned nachos. They get like that Wolf chili, which is like just pop top canned chili.
Yeah.
Which is like, ooh, that's just a nightmare. And then they just a block of Velveeta. Throw those two things together in a like a crock pot.
Yeah.
And then, but if you drink a lot of beer, this is the best food I've ever had. Why is this good? And I don't mean good beer. I mean just like, if all you've got is Budweiser, then you got to get a pound of Velveeta, Wolf brand chili, and some white bag nachos, and you'll think you're just like a king. Like, oh, this is awesome, but you would never like plot that. That's an incidental meal. That's something you plot out in advance.
Yeah.
That's like when you go shopping when you're drunk. That's what you come home with. Because that's what me and Phil used to do. That's what got questioned at the checkout. The lady was like, I just want to ask you guys something. It's like, what? Neither one of you are driving, are you? Like, well, hell no. We're completely shit-faced. Why? Well, that's why. Because you're obviously... you guys are laughing and talking really loud. It's like, oh, no. But wife's going to take us back home after we pick up our feast. The old 3 a.m. What was that? The 3 a.m. French bread pizzas. Or the Red Baron French bread pizzas at 3 a.m. Someone's waving a Glock around the kitchen. It's like, okay, put something up for him. It's time for bed.
Phil's hangry.
Yeah, it's definitely. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm cheat days like 24 hours away, so I'm right now I'm really just searching for
A vein.
yeah. It's like well, I actually come up with like a pretty good thing right now. Cause I had a problem with like coming home from work and like just like I have 40 minutes when I get home from work to like do anything.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sit there and cook. And but like I didn't like prepare ahead of time. So I found you grab those bag of frozen burgers, and then I just throw those on the George Foreman grill, and I go take a shower. And so by the time I'm done with the shower, the burgers are done.
Yeah.
And then I cook some eggs. I do like over easy eggs, put that on top of the burger, and then cook some beans. And I take some spinach and I just shove that in my mouth and eat that as quickly as possible, because I'm not there to enjoy the spinach. I'm there for the nutrients and the protein.
Just clear datum on the spinach.
Yeah.
Uh,
And basically, like, have you ever had like a sunrise burger where they put the egg on it and stuff?
yeah.
It's pretty good. But like, the thing about like when you have a burger but you can't have a bun, it's like you realize like how much like all the shit you add onto the burger. It's not even about the burger. Like most of like the calories you eat are like the bun or the bacon or whatever else, the cheese, and you throw on top of it. But when it's just a burger, it's like it's not much. But if you throw an egg on top of it, then it's like, yeah, that's more of a burger. And then I bought a whole case of these.
What is that?
This is Emeril's, I guess it's upside down. Kicked up horseradish.
Oh, okay. That's good stuff.
This is horseradish mustard.
Oh, okay.
Because like you can't have sauces with sugar, and oddly enough, horseradish has sugar in it, but horseradish mustard does not.
Okay, that's weird.
Yeah. Also, mustard 0 calories as well, but I like horseradish mustard. It's pretty good, and the Emeril's one I find the best. There's like the one that comes in like a stouter like circle thing, and it's like beer and brat mustard. That's like some German company that makes it, and that one's like super vinegary.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can see that.
So I don't like that one as much, but this one I really like this. Good texture and all that stuff. So I was at Hy-Vee. They didn't have it in. So I went to Amazon. I bought a case of 12.
Horseradish for the apocalypse.
Well, sometimes I'll go through like 2 of these. I'll go through like a bottle of these a week. So I was like, well, I might stock up.
Well, yeah, if you're going through it like that.
Well, steak is tasty. Sometimes you do steak. green beans, and then instead of mashed potatoes, I have fucking green or not green beans.
Cauliflower.
No, it's beans. It's just refried beans.
Oh, refried beans.
So that kind of acts as like the mashed potato substitute.
Oh, okay.
But now that I'm just putting eggs, now I'm just putting over easy eggs on everything. I'm not really adding the mustard on top of the steak anymore. I'm just kind of using the yolk as like the sauce.
Oh, okay. That'd be really good. That's a good breakfast.
Yeah, it's steak and eggs.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the burger thing kind of helps because like that's cheaper because I can spend $13 on a steak, or I can spend $10 on 12 burgers.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no, it'd be $13 for 2 steaks. Unless I wanted to get the grass-fed beef steak, then that's $13 for 1 steak.
Yeah, I've tried all that stuff once. Grayson used to really be into ribeyes, so that's all I would do. And then I remember I horrified him once on the grill because I brought a stick of butter out with me. 7 giant ribeyes on the grill. It's like, here, open it up for me, and he did, and I just put a pat of butter on each one. Gross. I said, no, just wait. It's like, I only flipped steak twice, so I did that. And then opened it up, flipped them, and then he was like really hesitant about it. I was like, "That's like fried steak. It's perfect. It's gonna be crisp," and it was, and he really liked it. So then that became the pattern, and then we kind of got out of ribeyes because those are bad for you, but they're good. They're bad and good. Well, I don't know how bad they are for you, but the size I was getting them, so it's like, hey, you want to do ribeyes this weekend? It's like, yeah, sure. So now that's our entertainment budget for the weekend. We're not going to movies and shit too. We're just doing ribeyes because it's like $60 worth of meat. And but that's yeah. Now he's into I forget what cuts of steak. Well, he
Alright.
gets give him the nice ones.
I remember we used to always have like T-bones as kids,
Yeah.
and then like and that was celebrated as like the steak.
Yes.
But then you have a ribeye, and it's like, well, why don't we just fucking get rid of the bone? Ribeyes are awesome. Like,
Yeah, the ribeyes are amazing.
the other thing about T-bone is that you can get a really fucking giant T-bone steak, and that's like kind of the only like thing about them is like how huge they can get.
Yeah, you can get 30-ounce steak if you want it. Yeah. You can get giant ribeyes too. And I charbroil my ribeyes. I don't. Some people are like, oh, you got to leave the fat on it. Tastes good. It's like, no, I just burn them down because that's how I like to eat. I'm not into rare. The only stuff I'll eat rare is like if I'm getting a really expensive steak, I'll get like medium rare because it does taste better. But if I'm doing it at home and we're just grilling for quantity, I don't use meat thermometers and eat it.
Is it black? Cook it just a little bit longer.
That's how Grayson likes this.
Yeah.
Burn it. Okay. Everything. Hamburgers, hot dogs. Can you just burn it? Yeah, I can. I said I can just buy bags of charcoal.
Yeah. I think it was like popular culture has like tried to teach us that having a steak well done is a bad thing, but like fuck it, whatever you like, you like. So I was like, we were on an AT one time, and I like the guy I was rooming with, like I took him out to Outback one day because I was like good on my diet or whatever. And it's like, all right, let's go fuck off now. So I went to Outback, and I was paying for it. Yeah. And I was paying for it, and he got a steak, and he's like ordered it well done. And I was kind of like heartbroken for a minute there. And I was like, yeah, fuck it, it's just steak, whatever.
No, the only thing I will, if you start putting ketchup or mustard on steak, well,
I'll do that if it's the only thing available.
Yeah, I just eat it if there's no.
Well, the thing I think is more acceptable is because like sometimes we don't always have steak sauce around, but for some reason we'll have ketchup and Worcestershire sauce. And
Yeah,
so I'll kind of mix Worcestershire sauce and ketchup together, and it's kind of a
Heinz 57 reflection.
yeah.
Yeah, that's I don't do. I always have. There's always some kind of steak sauce at my house. I remember we used to get this stuff. It was because Heinz 57 sauce is really expensive now for some reason. I don't know why, but now it's like $7 or $8 for a bottle. I think it's like
I don't know. Maybe they just like take the price up if steak is getting more expensive. They just add the price to the steak sauce.
like let's just ruin every aspect of this. But I was getting this stuff at we used to have a weirdly enough, we had a chain of British grocery stores. It's the only place in America they were. And they had this stuff, and it was called pub sauce. And it was just, it had the consistency of ketchup, the color of Heinz 57, but the flavor of A1. I don't know how they did it, but it was really good. And I would always go buy a bottle of it because you could get like the double bottle. It was like $5 at this grocery store. Everything else costs a fortune. And they had weird, Kipper flavored crackers or whatever. It's like, no, I just stick to the pub sauce. But and they had the cool beer from over there. They went out of business though. But yeah, and I can't find that shit, and I forget who made it. But it was unique, and everyone that came over whenever we were cooking steaks or whatever, they always were like, "Oh, this is really good." I said, "Yeah, it's different." It kind of combined everything. And then you had the vinegar sauce that I would get, which became a salad thing for me. It was like it was vinegar for like fish and chips type vinegar.
Yeah.
I started putting it on because you can't get fish and chips around here anywhere. But I just started. I forget what we were using it for cooking once, and I just put it on the salad. I was like, "Oh damn, this is really good." But it kind of made your stomach upset if you didn't take a lot either. You'd be like, "Ugh." Food porn.
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of food channels recently. So, you ever seen Binging with Babish?
No, I haven't.
It's a really good YouTube channel. He makes food from like movies and TV shows.
Okay.
It's more of a challenge sometimes. Like sometimes it's like, well, here's the ingredients they said in the show, and then that ends up being like total shit. And then they actually made like, here's an actual edible version of it.
Yeah.
And then there's one. It's called Bon Appetit, which I hear I've watched a couple of them, but like I've heard people talk about it and refer to it as being like the giant bomb of food channels.
Okay.
Where it's just kind of like off the cuff, and it's more about commentary in the background rather than like what's going on.
Oh, okay.
And then what else? Yeah, then I watched that chef show. I
always like Epic Meal Time.
Oh yeah, I've heard about them. I have.
Me and Jason used to watch that together. Cook 28 pounds of bacon in your oven.
Yeah, I saw one where like they ordered like 25 like Big Macs. They made like a fast food lasagna that just had a bunch of shit in it that looked awful.
Yeah, a lot of it's gross. Some of it's good. With the 75-pound hamburger and just crazy stuff like that.
But you recently watched Mindhunters, and I'd like to get your, or at least you watched the first season. Is it just Is it Mindhunters plural or just Mindhunter?
It's a good question. Let's go to my notes here. Mindhunter.
Okay.
Yeah, no, you've been asking me about this the last couple weeks, and for some reason I had it in my mind that this was some Fox TV show that I thought was just being ported over or reran on Netflix. So I didn't know. I just watched. I'll watch the first episode, whatever. And then I started watching it, and it's like, oh, this is made by Netflix itself, and it has all these actors in it. And then, yeah, from the first episode, I was in.
And
so
David Fincher directs episodes, and he's a producer, so it's very up his alley.
Yeah, it's a great looking show. Starts off in the mid 70s, and it looks like it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of about the birth of the behavioral crime unit
Yeah.
Or what was it called? Behavioral science something.
Yeah.
The people from Silence of the Lambs, the serial killers. And it's very similar to that movie. It has that vibe to it.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of ultra realistic in a way, because all these people are interesting people that want to do all this stuff. But when they talk, I like it when they talk to do the interviews.
Yeah.
Serial killers. Like the one I remember the most was Jerry Brudos, and they had like he was the guy who was into women's shoes and stuff.
Yeah.
And it just makes you what they do with the serial. These are all real serial killers, by the way. It's all based on real stuff. The characters as presented aren't real people, but they're kind of composites of real people that did this in the FBI.
Yeah. I believe this is based on a book, but
Yeah.
it's like kind of, they make that, they have some leeway with it for dramatic purposes.
Yeah. So, and it's yeah, it's very good at making, because like
Well, it's kind of unnerving, that first part where like they're interviewing. I can't remember which guy they're interviewing, but it's the first time that what's the young guy's name?
Agent Ford.
Yeah, he kind of like has this idea that he's gonna like goad the guy and like pretend like, yeah, killing people's cool, like and stuff like that. And then the guy opens up, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to get inside the mind of a serial killer, see what they think like, so then they can predict a serial killer.
Yeah. Yeah, the Ed Kemper was the guy they were talking to, kind of the first guy, sort of off the cuff before this was all official.
Yeah.
Like, because the behavioral sciences existed because the one agent, Trench, pulls him in because he's running it, but he doesn't have these, because it shows how, like, they don't really think about these people, like, as people. It's kind of old school FBI. I mean, by the time this show started, what was it? Herbert Hoover had only been dead 5 years. So that was kind of the old way of thinking in the FBI, where they were, because the FBI was really good at going after mobsters and really violent multi-state criminals, but this kind of, and they didn't even have the name serial killers yet. Even when this show started, what were they calling them? What was the term for it? Sequence killers.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were sequence killers because they hadn't thought up the term serial killer yet. And hold on 1 minute.
Eine Minute, bitte.
Yes. Okay, so one part of the strike has begun. All right, so well, that's General Motors, not Ford.
Okay.
That's-
Time to disengage from reality.
Yeah, time to disengage, re-engage, and disengage. I'm sorry, Tench is the other FBI agent's name. But yeah, that was. This is a great-looking show. It's very well written. The characters seem complex and deep, and it's nice that they're showing people that are actually affected by talking to these lunatics. And all the serial killers, guess what? They're real creepy, weird people. I mean, I know that's what you expect.
Yeah.
They really make, like, Ed Kemper is kind of like every autistic weirdo nerd you've ever met, who's maybe a little bit too into Dungeons and Dragons, but he also decapitated his mother and had sex with her head. Like, and that was a real guy. That really happened. It wasn't some made up thing. And Jerry Brudos was just, he was just a, you could tell he was manipulative. He lied about things. He lied about things he did and would lie to their faces about him. And then Richard Speck was just some dumb hillbilly that's what really got him in trouble, because in this world they're trying to relate to the serial killers. And Agent Ford was trying to relate to Speck, who was just being hostile to him. He said, what gives you the right to take all, 8 good cunts off the market for the rest of us? Or saying stuff like that. And even his partner's like, dude, we're recording this, man. and which leads to what is it called? Office of Professional something inquiry.
Yeah.
Can't say things like that, and this isn't what we're doing. And now they do stuff like that all the time because. But we don't really. I don't know. See, the point of this the series and the point of the genesis of the story is like we don't want to just react to crime. We want to be able to spot this before it becomes because you almost can't catch these guys until they finally screw up.
Yeah.
And then they're also going around because they have something called road school where these two guys go around and talk to local police departments about things going on, and then of course local police will approach them. It's like, hey, we got these one case, and these guys will interview people and help them solve it. So they're gaining credibility as they go. And then they pull the lady from Fringe in as she's a professor of psychology
Yeah.
at some Boston school, and like I said, I haven't seen Anna Torv in a while.
Yeah. Well, she's been doing other things.
Yeah, it's good to see her again.
I mean, she's Australian. I think she was doing a lot of Australian work at the time.
Yeah.
So it's good to see her back.
Yeah, but she's the psychology professor. She's like the intellectual side of this.
She's also the civilian side too. So
Yeah, she's a contractor, not an FBI agent. But as the show moves on into the early '80s, which I'm guessing it's the early '80s by the music they're playing. It also has great soundtrack in this, and music is very well used. But by the end of the first season, Ed Kemper gives Agent Ford a hug.
it gives him a panic attack.
Yeah, panic attack. And now this guy's plagued by panic attack because he seems like kind of an emotionless character
Yeah.
involved in stuff. And and then they've become like how would you say it? It's like, oh, this is affecting him. It's manifesting in this way.
Yeah.
Because he's definitely he seems to be on the dark side, and he has a troubled relationship with his weirdo sociologist girlfriend. Because there's a lot of stuff in here, like this kind of captures sort of the hippie counterculture of the 70s, the end of the 60s into the 70s. Because when he first tries to talk to a university professor when he's auditing classes, this guy's like, hey, you're a Fed. I'm not going to deal with the Feds, man. It's one of those deals. And so, yeah, I'm about halfway through the second season right now.
I do like in the how when they come back from in the second season, like how he has a panic attack, but how people dealt with it then. And I'm not sure if it was common to do that, but they basically put him on a psych ward and kept feeding him drugs.
Yeah, it's pretty much.
And then and then everyone just tries to hide it. Everyone just tries to pretend it never happened because mental health is such a stigma back then. So
Yeah. And the one guy's like, you really are a pussy, aren't you? Because this guy can't breathe. Out. He's like, just some kind of pussy. Get your shit together. Partner's telling him that. Get your shit together. Come into work Monday.
yeah, and Tench is kind of interesting with stuff with his kid. Where I think they're just intimating that like his kid's gonna be a serial killer, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, I think his kid's what we call autistic now.
Yeah.
And he's also adopted, so
Yeah.
you don't know what his background is.
But
yeah, I think they're moving towards some story like that where he's going to, whether it's true or not, these people are going to be so torn up by this horrible work they have that he's going to see that in his kid. It's like maybe he's one of these crazy.
But I do like, yeah, he's like an old school FBI agent, but also like I believe is a veteran, and so he has he's very gruff, but he also has his charms about him, where he's like goes talks to other veterans or police department people. It's like, hey, I'm on your side. Let's talk about this.
Yeah,
because he's not as exciting or manipulative as Ford is, but he can be in his own way.
yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember it seemed like a kind of a long time between seasons, but it's a good one.
Yeah, I think it was.
But yeah, it's I think like I mean David Fincher's always done like serial killer stuff.
Yeah.
And I think like probably one of his like hidden gems is that Zodiac movie he did. Like I don't think people ever talk about that movie, and it's a really good movie. It's also a really fucking long movie, but this is kind of like along the lines of Zodiac rather than like Seven. But
Yes, this is less action orientated. Well, I mean, because they always have the intro with the BTK guy,
yeah,
which is that's like he's an overarching presence in the story. It makes me wonder like how long this is going to go on because they didn't catch him until mid 2000s.
yeah,
Because he did that weird hiatus, kind of like, well, like David Fincher's Zodiac was because I don't read a lot about like true crime and serial killers and stuff on my own because to be honest with me, it's just kind of weird and dark, and those people are always end up being painfully boring in a lot of ways. It's just like, oh, you're just an egomaniac sociopath who just wanted power over people any way you could have it. But I did get interested in the Zodiac Killer story from that movie. That's a weird story. I mean, it's because he just this weird hiatus he took and how he was messing with the police, and then he just disappeared for a while, and then other people got killed, and they don't know if it was one guy or something happened. And that was kind of interesting.
and then for more violence, we watched a Netflix movie,
Yes, we watched the.
The Night Comes for Us.
Yes, I was actually kind of disappointed in that movie because it wasn't violent and gory enough. I really was hoping like have an eye pop scene or something.
You know, like
No,
scene where he's like,
I enjoyed the movie, but yeah.
you know, like when he's like chewing on a razor that's stuck in his mouth.
Yeah.
Now I'm probably gonna miss almost all the plot points of this movie. Because I was watching it kind of intently first, because like I knew it was a foreign movie, but like, and so I was like, you know, paying attention intently at first, and then like at some point they just kind of switched to English. It's like, oh cool, it's just gonna be in English now. And then I just kind of like was playing a video game at the same time I was watching the movie, and then I basically missed all the plot points because I wasn't like paying attention to the subtitles.
Oh, okay.
But
yeah, it's weird how because sometimes
because like was Ito and that other dude like were they brothers? Like I thought they talked about that or something, but or are they brothers in kind of like they grew up together way?
I think so. I think it was more that they were like in the old gang together,
Yeah.
or he becomes one of the 6 C's. That's so yeah, I think that's how they were. I think so. Like I said, a lot of it. This movie was weird because it's mostly in Indonesian, but then when certain actors come in, like the Triad boss, he only speaks in English.
Yeah.
And he speaks in like American English, which is weird. And then they're speaking Chinese in a lot of it. Not the main actors, but some of the side characters, which I'm watching it all subtitled, but I can tell the difference between those languages, and it doesn't seem to necessarily correspond to like who's it just seems to almost be random. I don't know, but I might have just been.
Well, I know like they kind of did things like that in like 80s action movies, like if they're doing like an international action movie that have just like a lot of languages and everything was just valid. They didn't necessarily like do a dub over everything.
Right.
It's like you get to enjoy this scene for the American audience because I mean it's an action movie, so it's like action's universal. Like this guy kicked this guy in the fucking head.
Yeah, you don't need to. Yeah, it's not a deep story.
Yeah, here it's pretty simple. There's like a guy's like a kind of like on a hit crew, and they're like, they want like the local mob boss wants to teach like the fishing village a lesson by like murdering everybody.
Well, someone in the village stole some. There's like the 6 C's. They're basically a drug importation group for the Triad.
Yeah.
Which is a huge. It's a real thing. It's a huge like criminal syndicate, basically of Chinese origin, but they run a lot of drugs through Indonesia, and it's like all these countries. You gotta look at a map to see how they're all connected. But yeah, and he was like one of the top bosses for the drug importation group, and someone in the fishing village stole something from him. So the answer, of course, is to that to teach all the fishing villages a lesson is kill everyone in the village. And the main character, Ito, they kill everyone, just execution style. There's this one little girl, and they're just lining up to shoot her, and then he turns on them because he won't shoot this little girl. So that's the driver for the story, and then he has an old gang somewhere in Indonesia. All his friends, Faith, and
Was it? No, it's Fatih, isn't it? That looks
Oh.
like Faith.
yeah, I just said it was Faith because that's how the
It's the same letters.
the subtitles actually would come up.
The only characters I know is Ito, Fatih, and Bobby.
Yeah, Bobby's the weirdo. That's like a British actor. You know,
'Cause Bobby takes a lot of hits.
he's a boxer in real life. So,
Yeah.
yeah. And because he's like, his mom's Indonesian, his dad was British, and he was born in England. So he's one of those guys. 'Cause remember
Oh.
they always say, "What's this white bastard want?" You know, that was always subtitles like, "Why do they call this guy a white guy?"
I thought I kind of vaguely smelled an influence of Nicholas Winding Refn in here.
Oh, you mean with the like where it takes its time with the long shots?
Yeah, so, well, like in between like outrageous action scenes, there's kind of like long shots, kind of like that kind of synthwave music.
Yes, the car scene.
Yeah,
They're sitting on the pier and the sun's coming up, and it's like, whoa.
yeah.
Yeah, this is a combination of there's a lot of. I saw that as more of a Michael Mann influence, but
I guess so. Yeah, too. Yeah.
a lot of Quentin Tarantino in this.
Yeah, this is very Kill Bill.
Yeah, a lot of and also the way, like the camera's moving. There's a lot of different movement in the camera. I like the gun camera where it's on the guy shooting the gun's face instead of following the barrel of the gun. It like just shows him tracking around shooting people with the gun, and then we have an alternate scene of what he's doing, which is that's interesting. I mean, there's a lot of good violence in this that just
Oh yeah.
right in. It's like, oh, this guy's been stabbed like 5. How's he going to keep fighting? I guess he is. Okay.
That scene in the meat locker where they just finds different ways to impale people and hurt people, and there's like a saw in there, and just
Tears the guy's dick off with a meat hook, and then tears his throat out with the meat hook. It's like, oh Jesus! It's when the ladies' intestines are falling out when the ladies fight,
yeah.
and a lot of slow throat cut deaths. People just sit there and gargle, and it goes on for like 20, 30 seconds. It's not just like, okay, on to the next person. No, we're just focusing on this. So it was at one part almost so ridiculously violent it was silly.
Yeah, it does get there.
Makes itself really serious.
Yeah, it does both.
Yeah. Boom, boom. Okay.
So yeah, sometimes the violence is so outrageous it's kind of funny. Like that one, I can't remember, the Ito's brother or whatever. He's like in that bar fighting people. Huh?
His name's Iran.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And he like breaks a beer bottle and then like shoves it in the guy's mouth. It's like, that's fucking crazy.
And then that guy's sitting there gurgling the whole time while he's killing the other people behind him. And once all those people are dead, then he takes his head and just smashes it into the table and drives the bottle the rest of the way into his brain and mouth. And it's like, wow, just going for it.
I believe some of this crew is from The Raid, or at least it's kind of some of the. It's not the same director, because the guy who directed the Raid movies is like a white guy.
Oh, really? I thought he was Korean.
Nah, I think he's like either New Zealand or he's just like some white American dude. I can't remember, but yeah, he's a white guy. But yeah, because those Raid movies are really good, and I know it gets compared to this, but the Raid movies are like way more serious. Like this is actually like, sometimes funny how over the top violent it is.
Yeah.
I mean, that one time she stabs that chick in the arm and then just like starts pulling it towards her hand, like just
like
cutting it the long way.
Yeah, you can see the knife, like, and when she's holding the wound, you can see the 2 bones in there.
Yeah.
Like, they actually
Yeah,
do-
I thought she was gonna wishbone her whole fucking arm, but they didn't do that. I was like, oh, that some restraint.
Why not ran out of money? One of the two.
I mean, she does have her guts hanging out, so.
Yeah. Weirdly, the director of this movie was born in Germany, but he's Indonesian. So.
Okay.
And I'm not going to be able to say that name. Taja Janto or something. Yeah, this movie was a weird combination of a lot of things, but I enjoyed. I watched it in one sitting. Sometimes with these foreign films, I'll take a break, come back, or have to review it. I watched this last week. And much recalled.
It's pretty long movie for like essentially just an action movie. It's like over 2 hours long, but it'll hold your attention.
2 hours and 10 minutes or something. Yeah, it was cool. It was weird. It was just weirdly violent in a crazy over the top way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the typical actioner where people are taking way too much damage and continuing to fight, which is.
And everyone's taking their turns to fight the guy.
Yeah, everyone waits. Okay, first you come in, then he stabs both his eyes. You're going to come in and he's going to feed your hand into his face, but everyone's going to go in sequence. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it was excellent fight choreography, but almost seemed like, it's like a retro film in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, it's kind of like that Quentin Tarantino, right? Where it's like, he's lifting from something, but you just don't know what.
Yeah.
But it's something old. I like that. I like some of the that fight where he's like fighting the police in the van. Like that one's pretty crazy.
Yeah. And there's guts like all over the van. And he's like slipping in them and they're falling on him. He pulls that grenade that what it's called, flashbang, and holds the guy against the front of the truck with his feet. So he like pulls the grenade on his pen, then flips around him and is holding him against the truck. And the flashbang goes off. It blows that guy's innards out like to shreds. And then, of course, the 2 guys up front lose control of the van because that happened. And that guy's intestines are slopping around inside as the truck's rolling over. It's like, I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Although they should have had Ito like bleeding from the ears after that, because that would be horribly. You'd be deaf after that.
Well, unless the guy's body, shielded most of it. I don't know. I've had no experience with flashbang grenades, so.
On anything that explodes inside a small confined space will get into your ears.
Yeah, it'll. You can only use a human silencer. That.
There's also something vaguely Children of Men about this movie. Maybe because he's just trying to save a child. I don't know. Puts her on a boat at the end.
Well, it just makes you wonder, like, what the fuck is Indonesia like? Apparently because the cops are in on it, but these people have done hundreds of thousands of dollars of property damage. I mean, that in that parking garage alone, it must have destroyed 30 cars because this guy's just driving around and they're just raking this car with machines, shooting everyone, and then everyone else is getting shot. And that one Chinese lady has those weird death balls where she can cut your head off and your arm, and
yeah, she's got some super Garrett going on.
yeah. And then and then her weird fight chick, and that lady was speaking French and Indonesian.
Okay, that's what I thought. I thought somebody was speaking French, and I thought it was her.
Yeah, it was. She is French and Indonesian.
Okay.
She didn't look Indonesian, but I guess one of her parents is. But yeah, she was, and they were lesbians.
That's why I was left to assume. Yeah, because there's that part where she's like,
the guy's like, oh, those sick lesbian bitches.
well, also she like fucking licks her hand before she goes and kills people, but.
Well, sometimes you do that.
But yeah, there's that part where like she's getting garroted by her own garret because it's attached to a fucking air conditioning unit.
Yeah.
And she's like, why didn't you save her? And she's like, she's already dead. So, apparently no love lost there.
Can't save the dead, but with just this complete deadpan look.
As she dies and her hand comes down and you see her fingers fell off and trying to hold the Garrett back from her neck.
Yeah. That's the problem with weapons like that. They can quickly turn against you.
And I don't, like, was that lady supposed to be like CIA or something that helps him out? Because she has like passports and explosives, so I just assumed it was like CIA or something. But
Yeah,
it could be any organization, I guess.
Yeah, any criminal organization, police thing. You got the Chinese over there. God knows what they have. So yeah, she's using a silenced South African. What's that gun called that she had? If I'm calling this right, could be wrong. Anyway, it's a South African like Uzi, essentially.
Okay.
A modern version of it. Can't get it here. But it does have a 1.5 foot of silencer on it, which would be about right. That was, and I like the end. The ending of it was really cool. I just like how they ended. Like this guy's the car's being shot up, and he's just screaming. And like, cut the credits. It's like, yeah, that's probably how this movie would end.
Yeah, that's the happy ending.
Yeah, that's the happy ending.
He has been bleeding for the previous 8 hours profusely, so you know.
Guy's been stabbed by. I did like how he armored up before he went and killed the guys in the warehouse.
Yeah.
Because he did take a lot of damage. Because of course he's going to be fighting 50 people. We just duct tape telephone books or something around him.
Yeah, newspaper or whatever.
Paper or something. Because he got a lot of. Because everyone immediately has machetes. In this, and he's going to fight 50 guys. It's like I broke the guy's teeth out with the cue ball. It's like that was and then he ripped the bag because there was I don't know if that was a snooker table or a pool table, but it was one of those tables where it's got the woven leather bags that rip balls instead of he just ripped one of those off and used it like a super sap to hit that guy on the pool table till his head just exploded and then was just sitting there holding it while the other 2 guys were looking at him. And then finally people show up with guns after he's killed 50 people in his feet. And then he decides it's like, well, these guys, they're just going to be set on fire, and I'm going to just watch them. He throws gasoline near them and shoots the ground with a shotgun, and like 3 guys are engulfed in flames, and he's just standing there staring at them. Yeah, the protagonist of this movie is definitely like a dark hero. He kills a lot of evil.
To save one girl.
Girl who he doesn't really know her name.
No.
He just gave her a name. But yeah, that's it was a cool movie.
It's just sitting there on Netflix, so if you're looking for a super violent action thriller, The Night Comes for Us.
Yeah, something to watch with the kids and the wife. That's your thing. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Good pick. All right. Well, I don't have anything else if you do.
Nope, not for this week.
I think I've see what happens. I think the strikes are beginning now, so we'll see what next week's like. I could be eating you from around a barrel fire. Like we're here celebrating the end of the middle class. Hard work and effort means nothing anymore. We weren't here to see this whole auto thing started, but by God, we're here to watch it end. So this week for the American Greed Factory podcast, this is Nathan.
This is Colin. Goodbye, America.